Hey everyone, welcome to Banfield. I'm Laura Ingle in for Ashleigh tonight. Glad you are here. It is finally Friday. Probably didn't need to tell you that. And, you know, nobody's happier to put the work week behind them than police in Northwest Arkansas. You'll know that their week started with a knife-wielding killer on the loose, but it ends with a suspect locked up tight in the Washington County Jail. This has been a major story we've been following all week long for you. Andrew James McGann appeared in court today, just long enough to get a public defender. And you really can't envy that person because police say that McGann left his DNA at the murder scene and admitted to killing two hikers right in front of their children. Court papers are painting quite a picture of that seemingly random attack, including the alleged state of Andrew McGann when he emerged from Devil's Den State Park. That's all straight ahead this hour. And later, I'll talk to the woman at the center of this terrifying viral video. Watch.
Get out! Get!
Okay, so that is Cheryl Edwards, and she used a mop to fight off a much younger woman who had just confessed to murdering her own grandmother. Cheryl Edwards' neighbor. Why was the teenager hell-bent on getting into Edwards' house? And why was Edwards hell-bent on keeping her out? And where's the admitted killer now? We've got some answers for you, and Cheryl Edwards joins me live minutes from now. And then, what do Hannibal Lecter and Kim Kardashian have in common? More than you might think. Because the multi-hyphenate media mogul has just released a new line of shapewear, and it looks like the cinema's hungriest serial killer is a fan. So break out the Chianti and fava beans, and I'll dish up the details. You had to say it, right? It's all on a scary good edition of Banfield tonight. But we begin tonight with the mop-haired school teacher who allegedly admitted to Arkansas police that he murdered two hikers last Saturday in Devil's Den State Park. Andrew James McGann didn't make a peep at his very first court appearance since his arrest on Wednesday. Now, the judge assigned him a lawyer, sent him back to jail without bond, at least for now. And weekend or not, that lawyer better be getting to work because McGann faces 2 counts of capital murder in the killings of Kristen Brink and her husband, Clinton Brink, who were out in the park that day with 2 of their 3 children, little girls aged 7 and 9. They saw it happen. The kids were unhurt and are now in the care of relatives. The suspect's purported confession notwithstanding, police say some of the blood at the murder scene, and there was a lot of blood, belonged to Andrew McGann. DNA, witness statements, and video of a black car leaving Devil's Den all helped police track him down. And today, the prosecutor on the case told us more.
I've been doing this for 20 years and have seen a lot and have reached a point in my career where nothing really bothers me. When I saw those 2 children on Saturday night, it was heavy. And I feel the weight of this case. This is a case where I want the public to feel safe. Devil's Den State Park is going to reopen at some point. We released certain details in the probable cause paperwork so that the public would feel confident and safe that the right person is in custody at this point. Of course, keeping in mind he's innocent until proven guilty here in court. All of that said, the public should always be vigilant. The defendant in this case drove a very unique vehicle. He had a Kia Stinger automobile. That automobile was identified by some of the witnesses that were at the scene who were very helpful. The public has been helpful in this case. Because of the uniqueness of that automobile, investigators were able to locate it at the barber shop day before yesterday and effectuate his arrest.
McGann's arrest may or may not have come as a shock to Andrew McGann, but it certainly did to the stylist who was cutting his hair at the time. She told us right here last night that McGann looked soulless, and there was something about him that didn't seem right. Well, Tony Bruschi has been our inside man on this case from day one. He is the Arkansas-based host of Hidden Killers podcast, and we will add a terrific reporter. Welcome back to the show, Tony.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Laura.
All right, so you've learned more information about the murders, including McGann's appearance as he came out of the woods. Tell us what you found out.
Well, today in the appearance in court, the judge formally read the charges, 2 counts of capital murder against McGann. He was appointed that public defender from the Arkansas Public Defender Commission to represent him. And it's not just your average public defender. They needed a death-qualified attorney who could be assigned to this due to the capital murder charges, similar to what we saw in the Brian Kohberger case in Idaho. No individual names have been named yet as far as who the attorney actually is. He was ordered held without bond, meaning he will remain in custody in the Washington County Detention Center, actually the same place that Josh Duggar, as you remember from that whole scandal, was also being held for a time. The prosecutor requested and the judge granted an order prohibiting McGann from contacting the victim's family. No plea was entered today, but the arraignment now date set for August 25th of 25 at the Washington County Circuit Court. We will find out exactly what he's going to plea at that point in time. The 25th is the date that is set right now on the calendar, but that could possibly be moved up with scheduling adjustments.
All right. Well, you know, there's been a lot of questions about McGann's background as a teacher. Man, we've been reading a lot about this, and we're hearing numerous accounts now about how he acted around children. So what are you learning?
Well, here's the disturbing reality of how Andrew McGann, rather, ended up teaching in Arkansas. I mean, despite multiple allegations of predatory and inappropriate behavior towards students in districts in Texas, and we are now starting to hear some unconfirmed allegations coming out of Oklahoma, McGann was never formally charged or even reported to authorities. Instead, he was quietly allowed to resign each time, leaving behind internal complaints locked away in confidential personnel files. Why is this? Because districts fear lawsuits, bad PR, and lengthy investigations, often leading them to handle these issues privately rather than involving law enforcement or child protective services. And then compounding all this, there's no national database or requirement for schools to share disciplinary records when a teacher moves from state to state. So it's a systematic problem that really allowed this guy to fester as long as he did. Personal privacy laws and non-disclosure agreements further shield allegations from view. It's a glaring gap in mandatory reporting and inter-district communication that allowed McGann to bounce freely from one unsuspecting community to another until he allegedly ended up here in Northwest Arkansas committing these murders at Devil's Den State Park.
And you know what, Tony, you know what really strikes me, too, is that the 2 little girls that were on the trail with their parents were ages 7 and 9, and those are the ages of the kids that he was teaching in some of these other states. And we've heard stories about inviting 9-year-old girls into the classroom to have lunch with him and giving them treats and candy and Sonic drinks and stuff like that. So I think that that's just really odd that he chose a family, a mom and a dad, with 2 girls about the age of the kids that he was teaching. But we'll find out more about that later as we move through the story. At this point, what are locals saying that this alleged killer has been caught? What's the mood like? Are people relieved? Are they mad? Because he was about to start teaching school, right?
There's a sense of relief and a sense of anger at some point. The community is happy that he has certainly been found, and a big pat on the back to the authorities and the investigators that spent countless hours and 24 hours, 48 hours working this job and eventually bringing this alleged killer to justice. But the issue with it is this seemed to be a random attack. It wasn't an issue of domestic violence. This was purely random, and it's certainly going to be something that sticks on the mind of really anyone on the trails in Northwest Arkansas for some time to come.
And before I let you go, Tony, I mean, again, you have done such a fantastic job, and for us as well. We thank you for your perspective, but I also understand that you've been taking some heat for your reporting on the attack. So what's up with that?
Well, a little bit about that. And first, I want to say my reporting has never been to insult the investigators and everyone who is working this case very diligently. It's more so on the fundamentals of the bureaucracy that handles it. The issues were 6 hours with the people in the park not having any notice that there was a homicide that was committed, and then 3 days of phone lines not working. People came to us expressing their leads, expressing what they saw, which ultimately led to the police sketch that we all saw and more detailed descriptions of the vehicle from our reporting that we handed directly over to authorities. So us calling them out on those issues of the 3 days with no phone line, that was simply to help. I'm sorry that it upsets some people, but clearly a glaring issue that hopefully in the future can be addressed. And we don't have to have that again should there be another emergency where people need to get information to authorities. They come to them first and not a podcaster.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that people are glad that they know that this was going on before they went out on a hike. You did a public service, and I know that many people are thankful for your reporting. Tony Bruschi, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Laura.
And I mentioned that McGann is or was a teacher. You know, he had just been hired in Arkansas, but before that, he taught in Oklahoma. And before that, he taught in Texas. And he's only 28 years old. He left his job in Texas after being put on leave for a variety of issues we've learned. And joining me now to talk a little more about that is a Texas mom whose son was in McGann's class. Lindsy Pollock, thank you very much for joining us today. I mean, this is really, you know, I have a young son. This is deeply disturbing to think about who was in the classroom with your son. I'm just, you know, let's start with what your reaction was when you learned that your son's teacher could be a killer.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Appreciate you continuing to cover this. You know, I was texted 2 nights ago by various parents of children that my son went to school with news articles that had McGann's mugshot on them. And I was just absolutely shaken that Kristen and Clinton Brink were brutally murdered, allegedly by the hands of the man that my son was around every day at his elementary school. While my son wasn't in his class, McGann was not his regular teacher. He was occasionally in his classroom on Fridays, and it was chilling to realize that he was around someone that could do this.
Yeah, and I mean, when we look at the photos, now there's photos of him smiling, you know, on his social media, right? We have seen some pictures of him where he looks a little, you know, friendlier, but what we're seeing here are the mugshots and the DMV picture, and we're seeing him go into jail. These are new images and new video that we're getting. What can you tell us about how McGann first came to teach in your district? Because I know when we get a teacher, you know, we'll get an email and they describe who they are, what their interests are. Did you get that sort of sense from him? Did you get an introduction? How did you get to know this guy?
Yeah, we had nearly half of our elementary school teachers leave our school in May of 2022 for some reason, and we don't know. And so the school had to replace them throughout the summer. And so we were introduced to multiple teachers going into the fall on the school's Facebook page, and there was a post from Andrew McGann on there introducing himself. He was holding a cat. He looked super friendly, very young. In his post, he mentioned that he loves to run, and he was asking for go-to trails to run on, which is just chilling now to think of where these murders occurred. But, you know, I saw him at school events, and he looked charismatic. He looked like the kids enjoyed being around him. They flocked to him. He was always hanging out with the 4th graders. It wasn't for a while that we started to see some red flags in things that happened in the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that, you know, the younger teacher, the cool guy trying to fit in and get along with these younger children. I mean, it's happened before, and usually everything turns out all right, but now we're in a different situation here. As the school year went on, you know, how would you grade him as a teacher? I mean, was he a good teacher?
Yeah, so again, my son wasn't with him every day.
Right, but on the Fridays.
Having regular interactions with him. He was occasionally in his classroom, and when my son would come home and I would ask him, what did you do today? The general answer is, if he was with Mr. McGann, I was on my iPad. I had free iPad time today to play games, or one day they watched the World Cup. So I didn't feel like my son was getting a whole lot of instruction. And then he started to talk to me about just things that a 10-year-old might say that stuck out to him. You know, Mr. McGann, you know, loves to play tag at recess. He plays truth or dare with the girls. You know, and then I started hearing these things like he's giving out candy. He gives candy out in class, but really it's for the girls. Or, you know, he's bringing Sonic drinks sometimes to special girls in the class. And these are the sort of things that started unrolling throughout the year that got our spidey senses up as parents.
Right. I mean, no kidding. I mean, talk about red flags, bringing candy. I mean, this like just goes down that checklist of concerns. What did school officials do when those concerns were reported? You and other parents went to the school and said, hey, there's something not right here.
So parents of girls who felt like their daughters were being groomed, who were in his class on a regular basis, went to the district. Some of these parents went to the school and the principal and the district and said, hey, there are inappropriate things happening in the classroom. A daughter sat in his lap in the classroom. A child overheard him speaking to a girl that he wished he could date her when she grew up.
What age?
These girls were 9 and 10.
Oh my gosh.
Things that they were seeing. And so these parents of these girls did go to the district and did go to the school and complained of this. And from what we were told, McGann was placed on an administrative leave in early May of 2023. And then there was an email announcement sent out that after he had been placed on administrative leave, there was an internal investigation that was done, that no inappropriate actions were found to have taken place, but that his classroom management was below standards for the district and that he had showed some favoritism towards students. But then they noted that he had tendered his resignation to HR. And so what we don't know is, was any disciplinary action ever taken? Was he reported to CPS? Was he reported to the state board regarding his teaching certificate? We don't know. It was all internal and it wasn't released.
And how do you find that stuff out now? I mean, I assume that you guys might be circling back to get some answers now that this horrific crime has taken place across state lines. You guys must have so many questions, and also when he was no longer teaching students, parents maybe felt a sense of relief, but then, there needs to be the follow-up, right?
Yeah, I mean, the last thing you want as a parent is for your kid to have anything less than a stellar year due to adults or an adult that they were around in the school. And so I think all of the parents were a bit relieved when we found out he had left and we could finish out the year and have a little bit of normalcy and peace, and not constantly hearing these rumors circulating through the kids about Mr. McGann and things that were going on. I feel like some of these children have still dealt with some of these issues for the past few years, just the trauma that they dealt with, feeling like they were groomed in some way, these girls were. And so it's all come back now. We're having these conversations again that we haven't had in 2.5 years of, oh my goodness, he left us. Where did he go next? We never heard the rest of the story. And now we're hearing the rest of the story. And it's terrifying to learn.
It is. And last question, how is your son holding up after learning the news, and his friends and the other parents? I mean, everybody must be talking in your town.
He's mostly concerned about the children who lost their parents. He's concerned about the girls he went to school with who dealt with and still deal with trauma from this. He wants to know how they're doing, how they're holding up. And he asked me yesterday, how is it that a teacher at my school in my grade turned out to be a murderer? And nobody knew this back then. It's been really unsettling for him.
He's a smart kid asking good questions. Lindsy Pollock, we're so sorry for the trauma that you and your son and family and community are enduring now. This has a huge ripple effect that unfortunately will probably go on for a while, but hopefully we'll get to some answers as we move through this story. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us tonight.
Of course.
All right, Lindsay, thank you. We got to take a quick break, but when we come back, this story is pretty wild. Who needs pepper spray when you've got a mop and the backbone to use it? We've been talking about this video. Case in point, the Alabama woman we told you about last night who fought off a woman decades younger who was trying to bust through her door. That would be scary enough, right? But the intruder claimed she had just killed her own grandmother. And police now say that's correct. After a break, we will take the mop-wielding murder victim's neighbor, Cheryl Edwards, on the air and talk about the crime that literally hit home. If you were with us last night, you saw a doorbell video that you probably won't be forgetting anytime soon. I know I won't. It shows a young Alabama woman, Jaylene Lupton, storming the front porch of a woman who lives down the street from her grandmother, Diane Trust. The neighbor's name is Cheryl Edwards, and she fought just as hard to keep Lupton out. And while Lupton had youth and adrenaline on her side, she's 18 years old, Edwards had a mop, and she wasn't afraid to use it.
My grandma. Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
That was something. It wasn't just the teenager's rudeness that rubbed Edwards the wrong way. She told Edwards that Trust, her grandmother and Edwards' friend and neighbor, was dead. And she, Jaylene Lupton, had killed her. She apparently wanted Edwards' car keys to make her get away. And the teen did not, in fact, get away. And today, she stood in a county courtroom pleading not guilty to murder and burglary. Trust, the victim, appeared to have been beaten to death with a mallet. Cheryl Edwards, she joins me now live, as promised, when we signed off last night. Welcome to the program, and bravo. I mean, what we saw there was really incredible, really scary, and deeply personal for you. So first, welcome to the program. And I've got to ask you, did you immediately know that? Yeah, did you immediately know that something was wrong? I mean, because it could have just been a teenager coming up to say, "Hey, my car broke down," but it felt like she was coming with a lot of energy on your porch. Had you talked to her in the past? Tell us what happened.
Yes, I've known Mia since her grandmother's had custody of her, and I've lived here, been their neighbors for 10 years. So, I mean, and I immediately knew something was wrong because my yard is posted for no trespassing, and those signs are meant for those kids because they're bad kids, you know. And Diane and I met, we talked every week. Once or twice a week, we met and talked and discussed kids, you know, so. But she was just horribly, her eyes were big as saucers, they were blood red, and she had blood on her, you know, and she said, "I killed my grandma," you know, and I'm like, "You're not getting in my house, you're not getting," you know.
Yeah, I mean, we see it there in that doorbell video. I mean, what was the mop on the porch? Did you grab the first thing that you saw?
I did. My mop was outside. I had just finished mopping my floors, and I put it out to dry. And I was getting ready to get in the shower, and my backyard door cameras started going off, telling me person, person, person. So I go and look, and she's trying to break into my sister's RV in the backyard.
Oh.
And so I throw my gown on, and I come to the front door and walk out on my porch. And as I walk out on the porch, it's when she comes up. And I'm like, "Hey," she said, "I killed my grandma, I killed my grandma." And she starts shoving me, and I shove back. And I grab the first thing I can find when I push her down, you know. And
wow.
It just went from there. And she finally jumped off the porch and went back around to the back of my house. I come in, and I grab my cell phone and my keys, and I lock my door as I go out. And just as I getting ready to go out the door, you know, and everything, she kicks my door in and busts my door off the door frame. And then I continue outside to go get my sister to come help me. you know.
Wow, we can see it there.
So,
That's her trying to
and
bust
she
through
comes-
the door.
Yes, it's all on video, her busting down my door. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, I
And
guess lucky
she-
for her you didn't
she-
have a gun and it was a mop instead of a gun. I mean, like, you defended yourself.
Well, right. I do have a gun, but it was locked up in my safe because my granddaughter was here, you know.
You know,
And I'm
go
like,
ahead.
no, this ain't happening. I said,
Wow.
this ain't happening. You're not getting in here. She did get inside my house, but she did not get anything.
Oh,
You know,
man.
and she run down the driveway, and she almost got hit by a vehicle. And I stopped the vehicle, and I said, I was screaming, I need your help. Stop, please. I need your help. She killed Diane. And the two guys I stopped, they knew her. They were raised with her and her kids, you know. And they went with me next door, and we found her body in the front yard.
Oh, Cheryl, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
You had mentioned that her eyes were as big as saucers. So that might indicate, I mean, did you feel like she was just on adrenaline? Was she on something? Did she do drugs, or did you think she was on drugs?
She just graduated high school in May. And there's a picture of her and her grandmother together with her in her cap and gown.
Oh.
And her grandmother looked at me and she said, this is my saving grace of all my grandkids and my kids. She doesn't do drugs, and she is graduated, and she's doing very well. She was a beautiful young lady. And then in a matter of 2 months, it had to be drugs. That's the only thing I can say, explain how she changed from one decent person to the type of person she was Saturday.
Cheryl,
I mean, it was horrible.
This looks horrible. First of all, I'm so glad that you're okay. You said that you went and found your friend and neighbor. You're the one that found the body, and we understand from police records that she was killed with a mallet. I just can't even imagine what that was like for you.
Correct.
After you had that encounter. Any idea of the problems that, I mean, if the grandmother said that she's my saving grace, she was so proud of her, things were on the up and up. Do you have any idea what could have happened other than drugs? I mean, did they have any arguments? Was there, was she getting kicked out of the house? Was there anything at all?
Well, she wasn't getting kicked out of the house. I mean, Diane never told me she was kicking her out of the house. There was problems with other grandkids and her daughters. You know, I mean, Jalen's mother is in the same jail she's in.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, so.
We've got that.
I mean, it was just a constant battle.
Okay, and Cheryl, before I let you go, we have to ask you, how are you holding up? How are you doing? Because my heart is racing watching this video right now.
I didn't sleep for several nights.
Yeah.
I mean, I was scared to go to sleep, but I got my door fixed, and that made it better. I got me a new security lock. My son shipped me a new lock to use on my door. And so, that makes me feel better. But then, my nerves are starting to calm down. My bruises are going away, But,
Yeah.
I mean, and I've talked to Diane's brother and her sister, and, and they're all like, we're just glad you're okay, and she
Sure.
didn't hurt you any worse than she did.
Absolutely. And
I said,
lastly,
but
if you...
it was an experience.
Yeah, that's for sure, Cheryl. And lastly, you mentioned that you lived next door to your friend for 10 years and that you talked twice a week. Anything else you want to tell us about your friend who has passed away in this terrible way?
Diane, those kids meant the world to Diane. She'd been over backwards for them. I mean, her children were troubled, yes, but she would give them everything she had. This was so uncalled for. I mean, there was no reason for her to hurt her grandmother like this. I mean, she gave her everything, and it's so sad. I mean,
It is very sad, and it's very tragic, and we hope that justice is served here. And we want to thank you very much, Cheryl Edwards. We're glad you're okay. We're glad you had that mop on your front porch. Cheryl, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too. And still to come tonight, the state of Tennessee is getting ready to execute a murderer who's been on death row for 36 years. And whether you agree with that or not, this execution has an unknown factor that has likely never before been seen. The condemned man has a gadget, you see, inside of his body that may try to keep him alive even during the lethal injection. Is that legal? Is it moral? Is that cruel and unusual? We've got the full details coming up. As it stands tonight, a triple murderer named Byron Black will die by lethal injection in a Tennessee prison next Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time. Black's been on death row since 1989 for the shooting deaths of his girlfriend and her two daughters, who were just 6 and 9 years old. But as horrific as those murders were, Black's lawyers say there are valid legal reasons not to execute him. He's 68 now and suffers from dementia. But even before that, he was intellectually disabled with an IQ of under 70. And if he were convicted today, the death penalty wouldn't be an option. And then there's his heart condition. Black has an implanted device that shocks his heart back into normal rhythm when it goes haywire. And his lawyers say the device will go into overdrive when the state tries to kill him. Initially, the state called on a government-funded hospital to switch the gadget off just before the poison would start flowing into Byron Black's veins to try and avoid some trouble there. But the hospital refused. And the standoff continued until yesterday when the state Supreme Court said, implant or no implant, the execution is on. I'm joined now by Dr. Jonathan Groner, a pediatric trauma surgeon in Columbus, Ohio, and he's also written extensively on medical ethics and the role physicians play in capital punishment. So a perfect guest. Thanks for being with us here tonight, Doctor. It appears this execution is likely going to proceed on Tuesday, whether this killer's implanted defibrillator is switched off or on or not. Tell us what you know about how it will respond to the lethal injection. Is it going to go haywire as it's been reported?
Thanks for having me on your show. I would say yes. Almost everybody experiences ventricular fibrillation, where the heart goes haywire, as you say, when they're dying. And it will certainly deliver a shock. And these can be really powerful shocks. I mean, there are cases where people are like doing CPR and this thing fires and the person doing the CPR gets a shock. And I once had a patient tell me it's like a kick in the chest. So they're very powerful shocks. Whether they happen when he's still conscious or enough is sort of hard to say. Someone with a normal heart would probably be comatose by the time the drugs start flowing, but he doesn't have a normal heart because people with normal hearts don't need defibrillators. I mean, his heart could go haywire, as you say, when he lies down on the gurney, when they're trying to do the IVs, when they're reading, his death sentence. So at any point, and if his heart doesn't restart, it keeps shocking and shocking until the battery finally dies. And also, it might make his body kind of spasm. So it could be kind of like the, dead fish out of water thing where he just keeps flopping around. Not sure about that, but people who've witnessed things say their bodies definitely contract in the upper body when the shock is delivered.
I mean, that is wild. And I'm wondering, because you have such expertise in this field, was the state within its rights to ask a hospital, help us with this execution? And is a hospital within its rights to say no, for that matter?
So I'm actually writing a book about this right now. It's called The Hippocratic Paradox, because here you have this paradox where people with medical expertise could, in theory, help with an execution, but they're ethically forbidden from doing so. So they're kind of stuck. I think doctors are within their rights to refuse to do something that will cause the execution of a patient. Whether the state's within its rights to ask the hospital to do that, I think is a legal matter that I can't say. But I do think that the execution might be one of the more grisly lethal injections we've seen, because of this thing is going to keep shocking him. And I do think that, just sort of existentially, to let someone die and restart their heart and have them die again would be sort of like having a noose and, tightening it on someone to kill them and then loosening it up and then tightening it again. So it seems very bizarre and should really be awful no matter what your position is on capital punishment. It just seems pretty crazy.
Yeah, and we understand that Byron Black's defense attorney said this to NewsNation, and this is in fact what they said. All we are asking is for the courts to stay this execution to prevent Byron Black from being tortured to death while the ICD repeatedly shocks his heart during the execution. This is a problem with a simple solution, but TDOC refuses to make arrangements to deactivate the device. So, are the words tortured to death an exaggeration? What's a physician's obligation to prevent torture to death if that's truly a possibility?
Right. So again, you are putting your finger right on the whole issue of what my book is about, is that the people who are most able to make this execution happen in the least painful way are, of course, ethically forbidden from doing it. And that's like this Hippocratic paradox. So, that's why they're stuck. Turning off the device is not complicated. As a surgeon, I would operate on patients with these devices, and a cardiology specialist would come in and they have a little device and this magnet and they put it on. It takes like a minute, but they're experts at it. And, landing a plane also takes like a minute too, because you have to know what you're doing. So it's not hard to turn it off. It's the whole ethical, moral boundary. I'm a pediatric surgeon. I've operated on thousands of babies. If physicians are involved in executions, do those families have less trust in me as a surgeon? I think that's an important question.
It is, in fact, and we'll circle back with you as we move through this. We appreciate your time, Dr. Jonathan Groner. Appreciate you tonight.
Thanks for having me on your show.
All right, thank you. And straight ahead, a driver speeds through a red light and keeps on going, ignoring the cop right behind her. When she finally stops, she doesn't exactly go quietly.
I don't care. She can bring your damn dog. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. You're under arrest. Touch me.
So why is the internet in an uproar with tens of thousands of people demanding that Arkansas State Trooper be fired? Maybe because of where the driver was going and why. I'll play you more of that video, and you can judge for yourself after the break. Don't go anywhere. Time now for a segment we call the alternate juror, where you decide who's in the wrong and who's not. Tonight, police dash cam video out of Hope, Arkansas. A state trooper in hot pursuit, a driver in crisis, oblivious to stoplights, and a dying dog in the back seat. Now, the dog had just been hit by a car, and its human was racing to the vet's office. But Trooper Holly Romero didn't know that, and she chased the speeding driver down until she stopped in front of a closed vet clinic. And then this.
Hey, what the hell are you doing? I gotta get my dog to a vet. I don't give a care. I gotta get my dog to No, ma'am. He's about to die. I don't care. She can bring your damn dog. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. You're under arrest. Touch me. My dog's dying. He's at the wrong vet. We got at the wrong You're gonna cut off traffic because your dog is dying? Are you kidding me? I had my flashers on. Mama, get him to a vet. Get him to a vet. Go to the other vet. I don't care if you had your flashers on. You ran the vehicle off the road. You're going into traffic. Wait. Wait, let me sit up. I will buy whatever you need, but let me sit up. I will sit down and do whatever you say. Sit up. Wait, I can't get up. I killed him. G12 Hope. I killed him. Get in. Okay, I will. Get in now. No, I'm just telling you I will do whatever I don't give a what you're telling me. Get in. I have one in custody, one female.
I know what you're thinking, and we don't know whether the dog survived, but the internet is on fire just the same. An online petition to investigate the arrest and fire the trooper has now topped 63,000 signatures, and you won't be surprised to learn that PETA is weighing in. The animal rights group is saying, in part, the trooper's shockingly unsympathetic response not only added to the trauma, but also portrayed law enforcement as unkind, uncaring, and unprofessional. So who do you think was right here? Let us know at BanfieldTips@NewsNationNow.com.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.